You're locked out of my computer? I don't know who's this. Well, I'll come there in just a second.
Oh, okay.
Well, this certainly gives me pause from the standpoint of going through grade school and being told that got to be very careful or this will go on your permanent record. And my God, this establishes your permanent record.
Right. Unless they dissolve, unless there's a sense of privacy written within there.
You're putting this stuff on my child
on based on what was going on, this is why it is. For instance, it seems like kids watch movies all the time in class, and I'm thinking, how is watching a movie going to school? You know, I guess some days it's probably okay, you know, if they're ahead in their lesson plan or whatever. I mean, I don't know if I really believe that, but you know, I would wonder if I'm going to put stuff in a database.
I can tell you from my experience at NASA, all of our emails
kids or adults is to
Columbia. Every single email.
How kids understand. How do they absorb information?
So this notion of it's password protected.
It's recently the kid is
But this is interesting. The teachers have always lived in an isolated world in their classroom, and they haven't even been able to create professionalism as a body. And this
It's almost as though
naturally reach out.
you're expected to learn in a certain way all the time versus trying to mix it up.
Well, I think that's what happened. And they're just booked. Yeah, we're just scheduling over every 18 minutes or whatever.
All right, we're ready for round two. I had one comment just given to me that we were just getting started and you broke us up. Well, that means you'll have to come back next month and continue on. But now we're going to move on to another subject, stories and their power in communities of practice. Madelyn Blair, all yours.
Thank you. Before I begin officially, I brought two things with me. Now, they are both downloadable from my website, but I know that some people really like paper. I mean, I know that. That's correct. So I'm going to, as you get into the tables, offer these to you. I'll just go to the tables. There are two papers. Oh, there's actually one paper, and the other is a little blurb on a product that we have that's complimentary. It's complimentary.
What's your website? You said these were on?
Pellerei, P-E-L-E-R-E-I, and I think it's in the.
It's in your little book.
It's in the brochure.
Madelyn's bio, and
It's .org, .net,
.com. Okay, now to begin. Whenever we join a group, we ask ourselves three silent questions. The first question is, do I belong to this group? The second question is, how do I relate to these people? Can I trust them well enough to be able to do what I need to do in this group? The third silent question that we ask ourselves is, will my time be worthwhile? Will I get sufficient value if I belong to this group? I'd like to tell you three stories. There was a vice president who decided that he was going to lay out the communities of practice in his area. He knew the topics, he knew his people, he defined the communities of practice, and he said, here you are, this is where you belong, go to it. And a year later, nothing was happening. A colleague of mine worked in that area and called me and said, Madelyn, let's talk about this and see what we can do. Can we revitalize these communities of practice, or should we just start anew? We talked about it and decided that we would start anew. We invited about 30 people from that vice presidency who were in different areas. And we said, tell us about the projects in your work that you just loved, the projects where you just excelled. Well, the stories that were told around that table were quite remarkable. I'll never forget one where they were trying to build a technological connection between Palestine and Israel, and how they had to negotiate to make that happen. Well, a funny thing happened. By the time they had finished telling their story, it was clear the areas that they really were interested in. And so my colleague and I laid out some topics, and they said, yes, if we have those as communities of practice, we can find a home where we belong. Trust. There was a small group of people, there were about 12 of them. They were to meet for 1 year and work on policy recommendations. So they got together and they started working together, but it just wasn't clicking. They invited me in and they said, Madelyn, we have to work together. We have to. We have to understand these issues. We have to be ready to share completely in order to be able to make the right recommendations. So I said, fine. We got together. I said, hey, why don't you join this organization? Tell what you do. And while you're telling that story, tell me what it is that you bring to this organization. And one of the stories that was told was absolutely hysterical. It broke everybody up. It was this woman who said, I bring persistence. And she told about the time she was redoing her bathroom, and she discovered she had to move the commode all by herself. She got out the books. She said, I figured out how to do it. I took that thing out, fixed my bathroom, and I installed it again. Well, let me tell you, that young woman raised in the estimation of others enormously. Well, that happened again as her daughter. That group worked very well that year. Remember that third silent question. Is there value in my time? I was called in to work with a board. This board was bored. Their organization had been going downhill for about 3 years, and they really weren't interested. Well, that was a tough call, right? I said, okay, I'd like you all to look at your mission statement. And they said, oh, mission statement's old. You know, we want something new. I said, let's look at the mission statement. So we pulled it out, and there were some interesting words in it. Quality, community, worldwide impact. Pretty nice words. I said, now tell me, look at those words, pick one of them that inspires a story in you. And then I want you to tell that story to the group. As they began to tell their stories to each other, and it might have been a story about community, but maybe it was about the community they grew up in. And maybe it was about impact in the world, and it was something very different, but it was about impact. Those words came alive again. And they were revitalized at the same time. Now, communities of practice are all about groups of people. Now, I don't care if you meet face-to-face or if you meet virtually. You're a group of people, and you ask those 3 silent questions every time you make a choice to either go in or stay in. What I'd like you to do as you go back to your tables is take a few challenging questions. Now, they're actually in your little, the menu. I call it the menu.